Hey YouTube, it's that time. Time for the Rhino video. Now I gave you a little teaser video before, so you knew it's coming. But here it is. Just listen to that snap into place. Let's just take a look at this for a little bit, why don't we? The Emerson Spec War logo. Complete zero grind, chisel grind blade. And the serrations at the top, completely ground swedge. Even this part is sharp, although it's not. Obviously, it's not serrated. And the point of the knife, oh my gosh, is it sharp. The handle shape is that of a Super Commander. Of course, titanium locks. Just look at that wicked, wicked knife. Phenomenal. Now this knife, it's not one that a lot of people know about, let's put it that way. Something like the CQC6, everyone knows about, everyone loves it. The Rhino is a much more rare knife. Less people know of it, and it's much more desirable even than the CQC6. It was originally called the SSRT, which stands for Silent Sentry Removal Tool. And right now I'm going to tell you a little bit about its history. And this comes from the USN, and the user named J Bravo. He's been a knife collector and knife historian for quite some time, back from when Ernie started making knives, and he gave me permission to read his posts about the Emerson Rhino verbatim on YouTube. The Silent Sentry Removal Tool, aka the Rhino, has a unique place in the hearts of Emerson users. In a world where the phrase grill knife is bandied around for everything from production knives that number in the thousands to prototypes that actually cost in the thousands, this is a true grail. For most of the decade 1995 to 2005, it was the absolute rarest, most desired, most storied Emerson folder around. Why was this so? First of all, there were only 5 made. 3 had top edge serrations and 2 were plain edge on top. All were black on black, with black liners to boot. All had Spec War logo, and each had the thick, hand-sculpted micarta handles that fit your mitt so very well in all conditions. And in keeping with the mission specs Ernie had received, each one had a small hole drilled near the handle, in the handle near the back, which was right about here. Of the 5, 1 was tested to near destruction by the boys. 3 definitely made their way into collectors' hands. And the last one, I never found out whether it sold or was kept by its maker. A serrated one sold for $875 in 1995, which I believe is the dead lowest price for these, and a plain edge sold for the then unheard of price of $1,000 in that same year. This when you could buy a CQC6 for around $700. I think he means on the secondary market. Why else so desired? It was a knife that was designed specifically for an elite military unit whose mission profile included the need to be able to quietly remove an enemy sentry. This happens to be a skill taught to troops passing through the base at Coronado, for example. As the design shows, it revolves around drawing the knife generally towards you in a manner that does not allow for an outcry. These same end users might reasonably be expected to parachute from time to time, and that little hole in the handle was to allow you to put a paperclip in it as a safety. This way, the double-edged blade could not pop open during the rapid velocity changes one experiences during a jump. So, as you can imagine, if one were to use the knife thusly, one would cut anything that was in one's path. And so a paperclip hole would be used here. It's also been called a grenade pin hole. Like I said, it would be right about here, and it would act to keep the blade closed going parachuting if you were to jump from a plane. paperclip hole or grenade pin hole, of course, because they would use a grenade pin from, I guess, from a practice range or whatever. I guess they had them lying around. He goes on to say that the knives were ultimately deemed too specific to justify carrying, and other knives had greater versatility were later made for these users. I believe another 5 were made sometime before 2000. These were similar, but without the hole, and more modified black handles, such as these possibly. Since then, a very, very few bolstered, satin versions have also surfaced from the laboratory Ernie calls his shop, and I'm pretty sure the prices have risen since 1995, too. There you have it. The big triple in tactical knives: extreme rarity, close association with extremely tactical users, and a purpose that denies any utilitarian use. Plus the blackout look from a maker who hadn't used that much up until then, and you have a recipe for a knife that immediately became legend. He goes on to say that it also became referred to as the SSDS, a designation that arose from, and it's basically what it means is sudden SEAL death syndrome, SEAL being the Navy SEALs. But yeah, so that's about as much as the history as I know. He mentions the first knives, these first rhinos of the first 5 were black on black. Black sculpted handle, black sculpted micarta handle. So it was contoured much like his current customs to fit the hand. Black blade, which, as he mentions, was extremely rare for the time, and it is still fairly rare. You do not see black bladed custom Emersons at all, almost. And grenade pin hole. And then there have been bolstered versions with the satin blade like this, but most of them have black handles, G10 handles. The bolster versions, I think I've seen one with a diamond logo, meaning it was made in 2004. I've also seen one that has hand-checkered green micarta handles, which is super rare. I think there's only one of those, but I'm not positive. I'm just looking at my computer, looking at some of the other images of the rhinos that I've seen in the past. Again, this is not owned by me. This owns by another member on the USN, and the mayor, actually, if you know who I'm talking about. And this knife is fairly recent, in the 2000s. I don't recall. I believe he told me about a year ago when I first saw this knife, but I don't recall what year it was made. Sometime in the 2000s, fairly recently, by comparison. And it's interesting, when people talk about knife reviews, they always have comparators, right? But what can you compare to an Emerson Rhino? I mean, sure, it has the handle of a Super Commander, and it fits in your hand well, like the Commander model does, and it has a nice thumb ramp. But that blade is unparalleled. The upswept chisel grind, the serrations. You know what? It's not quite unparalleled, but there are quite. There's only 2 other design knives. Listen to me, knives that are like it. I'm stumbling over my words because I'm quite excited about this other knife that I have that quite resembles the Emerson Rhino, the Steve Ryan Rhino, frequently called Leibniz and Newton by some people, because these knives were developed at the same time for the same purpose. But I will do a full review. I'll do a combination video talking about the relationship between these 2. But yes, there's another knife that is just like the Emerson Rhino, termed the Ryan Rhino for knife maker Steve Ryan. All right, guys. I want to do my outro where I say, "Be dressed to play and geared to slaughter." But these knives are not for playing around. All right, guys. Take care. Hope you enjoyed the video. Again, look for the other one I'll have with both the Ryan and the Emerson together. All right. Take care.